Behind the towering walls of the Atlantic Institution, Canada's most secure prison, lies a chilling reality few dare to imagine. This is a place where maximum security isn't just a label, it's a way of life. With murders, suicides, and constant fear, every day is a fight for survival. What drives men to the edge, and how does a prison designed for safety become a breeding ground for tragedy? The Atlantic Institution, located in Rennes, New Brunswick, is not just another prison. It represents the apex of Canada's federal correctional system. Built in the late 1980s and officially opened in 1987, it was designed to house some of the country's most dangerous and high-risk offenders, those deemed too violent, unpredictable, or unmanageable for other correctional facilities. Unlike medium or minimum security prisons, where rehabilitation programs and community reintegration are prioritized, the Atlantic Institution was constructed with a singular focus: containment. Its walls, reinforced with layers of concrete and steel, stretch high and imposing, symbolizing both the authority of the state and the isolation imposed on those within. Every aspect of the institution's design serves the purpose of maximum security. The perimeter is surrounded by multiple fences, razor wire, motion detectors, and strategically placed guard towers, making escape nearly impossible. Inside, the architecture is deliberately cold and utilitarian. Hallways are narrow, cells are uniform, and surveillance cameras monitor virtually every movement. The facility employs a system of controlled movement where inmates are escorted under strict supervision, their interactions and daily routines tightly regulated. Each day is a careful orchestration designed to minimize risk while maintaining order. The population of the Atlantic Institution is varied yet united by one defining characteristic: they are considered high-risk, violent offenders. Many have committed murder, sexual assault, armed robbery, or other severe crimes, and some have histories of escape attempts or assaults on prison staff. The institution also houses offenders who pose threats to other inmates, including those involved in gang activity or with significant criminal networks outside the prison. Each inmate is classified based on risk assessments, behavior patterns, and psychological evaluations, which then dictate their security level, housing arrangements, and permissible activities. What makes Atlantic Institution unique is not only the severity of the crimes its inmates have committed but also the intensity of the daily environment. Inmates live under conditions that are far more restrictive than most prisons, with limited freedom of movement, minimal social interaction, and constant surveillance. Guards are trained not only in physical security but also in conflict management, recognizing early warning signs of violence, and handling high-stress situations. The institution operates on a fine balance, ensuring the safety of staff, preventing violence among inmates, and upholding legal obligations for humane treatment. Despite its reputation as a fortress, the prison has been shaped over decades by real events inside its walls. High-profile incidents of inmate violence, including assaults and murders, have influenced policies and procedures, leading to even stricter controls and heightened security protocols. Mental health concerns have also played a role in the facility's evolution, as the psychological impact of isolation and confinement became more evident through case studies and incidents of self-harm. Programs aimed at rehabilitation exist, but they are secondary to the overriding mandate of security and risk management. The Atlantic Institution stands as a symbol of the extreme measures a society will employ to contain its most dangerous elements. Its history is intertwined with the evolution of correctional philosophy in Canada, reflecting a persistent tension between security, punishment, and rehabilitation. Over time, it has become clear that running a maximum security facility is not just about walls and bars. It requires constant vigilance, detailed planning, and the ability to anticipate human behavior under conditions of intense stress. Every design choice, every procedure, and every policy within Atlantic Institution tells a story about the nature of crime, punishment, and the lengths a society must go to keep its citizens safe while managing those who have crossed the most dangerous thresholds. Life inside the Atlantic Institution is defined by one overriding factor: maximum security. This is not merely a label, it is a pervasive reality that governs every action, every movement, and every interaction within its walls. From the moment an inmate enters the facility, they are immersed in a regime designed to control, monitor, and contain. Every corridor, every cell, every common area has been meticulously planned to prevent escape, violence, or disorder. The environment is deliberately intense, creating a psychological atmosphere where vigilance is constant, and complacency can be fatal. The physical structure of the prison reinforces this mindset. Narrow hallways funnel movement, metal doors lock automatically, and surveillance cameras cover nearly every angle. Inmates are escorted in small groups or individually, depending on their assessed threat level, and every interaction with staff or fellow inmates is closely monitored. Even mundane activities like meals, recreation, or medical visits are carefully scheduled and supervised, leaving little room for privacy or spontaneity. In such an environment, routine becomes a survival tool, and any deviation from prescribed behavior is met with immediate attention from correctional staff. Psychological pressure in a maximum security environment is constant and unrelenting. Inmates are aware that the slightest provocation can escalate into violent confrontations, and this tension permeates the atmosphere. Gang rivalries, personal grudges, and histories of violence often carry over into the prison, creating a volatile environment that can ignite without warning. Staff are trained to anticipate, de-escalate, and respond to threats, but even the most vigilant guards cannot eliminate the inherent risk entirely. The sense of being constantly watched, combined with restricted freedom and high-stakes consequences for misbehavior, creates a psychological weight that affects everyone within the institution. Security protocols are strict and multi-layered. From reinforced cell doors and motion detectors to high-tech surveillance systems and controlled movement schedules, every measure is designed to prevent escape and reduce the risk of inmate-on-inmate or inmate-on-staff violence. Searches are routine and often invasive, and privileges are earned rather than granted. The rigid structure and strict rules create a hierarchy of control, reinforcing the authority of staff while reminding inmates that their every move is subject to scrutiny. Despite the oppressive environment, the maximum security system is intended to serve multiple purposes beyond containment. It is a deterrent against violence, a framework for maintaining order, and a tool for identifying behavioral patterns that may indicate risk. Staff observe subtle cues, body language, tone of voice, interactions with others, to anticipate potential incidents. Every day is a balance between maintaining strict control and navigating the complexities of human behavior under extreme stress. The result is an environment that is simultaneously protective and punitive. On one hand, maximum security measures safeguard staff and prevent escapes. On the other, the same measures intensify feelings of isolation, frustration, and despair among inmates. The constant tension, restricted movement, and omnipresent surveillance contribute to a sense of psychological pressure that can be as dangerous as physical threats. Inmates must navigate not only the rules imposed by staff but also the unspoken rules of survival dictated by the social dynamics within the prison walls. In Atlantic Institution, maximum security extends beyond physical barriers. It shapes the culture, the daily routines, and the very psyche of those who live and work inside. Every protocol, every procedure, and every interaction is influenced by the need to control, prevent, and manage extreme risk. This environment may deter many forms of violence, but it also creates conditions in which stress, paranoia, and conflict can thrive, setting the stage for incidents that test the limits of both human endurance and institutional control. Despite the formidable security measures at Atlantic Institution, violence remains an unsettling reality, and murders inside the prison, though relatively rare, send shockwaves through both staff and inmates. The facility, designed to house the most dangerous offenders in Canada, contains individuals who have committed some of the most heinous crimes imaginable. Many arrive with a history of violence that does not disappear simply because they are behind bars. Personal vendettas, gang affiliations, and long-standing grudges often follow inmates into the prison, creating an environment where tensions can escalate quickly and in some cases with deadly consequences. Murders inside Atlantic Institution are typically the result of complex, often interconnected factors. Rivalries between inmates, whether stemming from previous encounters or forged within the prison itself, can ignite suddenly. A perceived insult, a dispute over territory, or even a clash over a trivial item can spiral into lethal violence. Some incidents occur in isolated areas of the prison, such as workshops, exercise yards, or cell blocks, where supervision may momentarily lapse or where groups of inmates can congregate unnoticed. Even the most experienced staff cannot fully eliminate the risk of such outbreaks, as the human element remains unpredictable. Gang activity is another major factor contributing to violent incidents. Atlantic Institution houses members of organized criminal networks, each with its own hierarchy, codes of conduct, and retaliatory obligations. When conflicts arise, they often carry the weight of previous allegiances and outside criminal operations, turning minor disagreements into deadly confrontations. The prison administration attempts to mitigate these risks through segregation, controlled movement, and careful monitoring, but even these measures cannot completely neutralize the potential for murder. The constant presence of tension and fear becomes a psychological battlefield where trust is scarce, and every interaction can carry hidden threats. The methods of violence inside the prison are varied, ranging from improvised weapons to physical assaults, and in some cases coordinated attacks. Inmates often exploit small lapses in security, smuggling materials or manipulating routines to gain an advantage. Staff training emphasizes rapid response, situational awareness, and de-escalation techniques, yet the unpredictable nature of these attacks keeps the risk high. In addition to physical harm, the psychological impact of witnessing or hearing about murders deeply affects both inmates and guards. Fear and paranoia permeate the daily atmosphere, influencing behavior and shaping interactions in ways that often lead to further conflict. The aftermath of a murder within Atlantic Institution is complex and far-reaching. Investigations are meticulous, involving correctional officers, forensic specialists, and external authorities to determine responsibility and prevent recurrence. Inmates connected to the incident may face additional sentences, transfers to higher security facilities, or extended solitary confinement. For staff, the emotional toll can be significant, as they must manage trauma while continuing to enforce security measures in a high-stakes environment. Even outside observers, family members, policymakers, and the public are forced to confront the stark reality that no prison, regardless of design, can completely eliminate human violence. Over the years, specific cases of murder inside the Atlantic Institution have highlighted the challenges inherent in managing a maximum security population. Each case becomes a case study in risk management, behavioral analysis, and the limits of institutional control. These incidents often lead to revisions in policy, tighter security protocols, and increased surveillance. Yet the cycle of tension, conflict, and violence persists, reflecting the fundamental difficulty of containing individuals who are predisposed to aggression within a confined and high-pressure environment. Murders in such a facility are not just isolated acts of aggression. They are symptoms of a deeper, systemic struggle within the prison environment. The combination of isolation, constant surveillance, rigid routines, and the ever-present threat of retaliation creates conditions in which extreme violence can erupt. Inmates navigate a world where survival often depends on demonstrating strength, maintaining alliances, and avoiding vulnerability. For staff, every day presents a delicate balance between enforcing order and preventing tragedy, highlighting the inherent complexities of life inside a maximum security prison. Ultimately, murders inside Atlantic Institution reveal the stark reality that even the most secure environments cannot fully contain human behavior. The walls and fences may be impenetrable, the routine strict, and the oversight constant, but the psychological, social, and emotional pressures inherent in a maximum security setting continue to create situations where violence can, and does, occur. These incidents serve as a reminder of the constant tension between safety and risk, control and unpredictability, and the profound human cost of confining society's most dangerous individuals in a single high-stakes environment. While murders inside Atlantic Institution capture headlines and spark immediate concern, suicides represent an equally tragic, though often less visible, crisis within the prison walls. The psychological toll of maximum security confinement is profound, and for many inmates, the combination of isolation, stress, and unresolved trauma creates conditions where despair can become overwhelming. Unlike violent confrontations, suicides are often silent, internal struggles that occur despite the constant surveillance, strict routines, and controlled environment designed to maintain safety. They reveal the deeply human side of incarceration, highlighting vulnerabilities that no wall, fence, or guard can fully contain. Inmates at Atlantic Institution face extreme psychological pressures from multiple sources. The very structure of maximum security life contributes to feelings of isolation and helplessness. Restricted movement, limited social interaction, and minimal privacy create a sense of confinement that extends beyond physical barriers, embedding itself into the mind. Many inmates enter the prison already carrying emotional scars, trauma from their past, guilt over their crimes, or mental health disorders that were never adequately addressed. Once inside, these issues are often intensified, as the environment provides few opportunities for meaningful connection, emotional support, or psychological release. The prevalence of suicides within maximum security settings reflects a combination of environmental stress and individual vulnerability. Some inmates struggle to adapt to the strict regimen, while others cannot cope with the constant surveillance and perceived lack of control over their own lives. Even minor incidents, a reprimand from staff, conflict with fellow inmates, or news from the outside world, can trigger deep emotional crises. Mental illness, including depression, anxiety, and personality disorders, is disproportionately represented in the inmate population, and without timely intervention, these conditions can escalate into self-harm or suicide attempts. Prison staff are acutely aware of these risks and receive specialized training to identify warning signs and intervene when necessary. Guards and psychologists monitor behavior patterns, noting changes in mood, sleep, appetite, and social interaction. Yet even with these precautions, predicting and preventing suicide is inherently difficult. The internal nature of these struggles means that signs can be subtle, hidden, or intentionally masked. Inmates may employ strategies to conceal their distress, whether out of shame, mistrust, or fear of punitive measures. This makes mental health management an ongoing challenge, requiring vigilance, empathy, and rapid response. The methods by which inmates attempt suicide in maximum security facilities are varied, ranging from hanging to self-inflicted injuries, with some using improvised means from materials within their cell. The constant adaptation of security protocols seeks to minimize opportunities for self-harm, but the ingenuity born of desperation often tests the limits of these measures. Every incident becomes a learning point for prison administration, prompting adjustments to policy, cell design, monitoring practices, and mental health support systems. However, these measures are reactive, addressing symptoms of a deeper problem rather than the root causes of despair within confinement. Beyond the physical threat, the emotional and social consequences of suicides ripple through the entire institution. Inmates are profoundly affected when a fellow prisoner takes their own life, triggering fear, grief, or even retaliatory violence. Staff, too, experience emotional strain, balancing professional responsibility with the human impact of witnessing tragedy. These events underscore the complexity of life inside Atlantic Institution, a place where the visible threats of violence coexist alongside invisible battles of the mind, each shaping the behavior, atmosphere, and daily realities of everyone within. The issue of mental health in maximum security prisons extends beyond individual crises. It highlights systemic challenges in the correctional system, including limited access to therapy, underfunded programs, and the difficulty of providing meaningful intervention in an environment primarily designed for security. Suicides serve as stark reminders that confinement without adequate psychological support can have devastating consequences, transforming the very space intended to contain danger into a pressure cooker of emotional turmoil. In the Atlantic Institution, suicides are a grim reflection of the human cost of maximum security incarceration. They reveal how the environment, designed to control external threats, can inadvertently amplify internal ones. They force us to confront uncomfortable questions. How much can a prison protect its inmates from themselves? How can correctional facilities balance the imperatives of security, punishment, and mental well-being? And perhaps most importantly, what does this tell us about the broader challenges of managing those deemed most dangerous by society while also recognizing their fundamental humanity? Daily life inside Atlantic Institution is defined by strict routines, controlled interactions, and a constant awareness of one's surroundings. Unlike medium or minimum security prisons, where inmates may have relative freedom to move, socialize, or engage in recreational activities, life in a maximum security facility is highly regimented. Every moment of an inmate's day is scheduled and monitored, from waking up in the morning to lights out at night. The monotony of these routines, combined with the high-stakes environment, creates a unique psychological landscape that shapes the behavior, mindset, and survival strategies of those living inside. Inmates begin their day with strict wake-up times, often announced over loudspeakers, signaling the start of controlled activity periods. Cells are inspected and personal belongings are checked for contraband. Meals are served at set times in the mess hall, where seating is carefully organized, and interaction is limited to prevent conflicts. Even during recreational periods such as time in the yard or gym, movement is closely supervised by correctional officers. These structured routines are designed not only to maintain order but also to minimize opportunities for violence, escape, or disruption. The limited social interaction available to inmates is both a challenge and a necessity. Inmates must navigate complex social dynamics while under constant observation. Friendships and alliances may form, but they are often fragile and subject to the pressures of a high-security environment. Conflict can arise from small misunderstandings, power struggles, or competing interests, and managing these interactions becomes a skill essential for survival. In many cases, inmates rely on subtle social cues, observation, and negotiation to avoid confrontations and maintain a semblance of stability in an otherwise tense environment. Work programs and educational opportunities exist within the Atlantic Institution, but participation is controlled and highly structured. Inmates may be assigned tasks in the kitchen, maintenance, or administrative support, but even these roles are carefully monitored. Educational classes, vocational training, and therapy sessions are available to some, yet access is limited and contingent on behavior, risk level, and available resources. For many inmates, these programs provide a rare opportunity for mental engagement and a temporary escape from the monotony, but they also serve as a reminder of the structured limitations of life behind the walls. Recreation and physical activity are critical components of daily life, both for maintaining physical health and for managing psychological stress. Exercise yards, indoor gyms, and limited outdoor spaces provide controlled environments where inmates can release tension and maintain some sense of autonomy over their bodies. However, even these activities are highly regulated. Guards observe constantly, and any hint of conflict or rule violation can result in immediate disciplinary action. The balance between structured freedom and strict control defines much of the daily rhythm of life within the institution. Isolation is a pervasive aspect of daily life in maximum security settings. Many inmates spend extended periods in their cells, particularly those deemed high risk or involved in violent incidents. Solitary confinement, though used as a disciplinary tool, also serves to manage dangerous individuals and prevent potential conflicts. Extended isolation can have profound psychological effects, amplifying feelings of despair, frustration, and alienation. Inmates often develop coping mechanisms, whether through reading, writing, meditation, or other forms of self-expression, to endure long periods of solitude. Despite the challenges, daily life inside Atlantic Institution is also shaped by routines and rituals that provide structure and a sense of predictability. In a place where uncertainty can be life-threatening, adherence to schedules, respect for hierarchy, and careful observation of rules become essential survival strategies. Inmates learn to navigate the dual pressures of physical confinement and social complexity, balancing the need for compliance with the desire for personal agency. The day-to-day experience is a constant negotiation between control and autonomy, safety and risk, monotony and mental stimulation. Ultimately, the daily life of inmates at Atlantic Institution is a study in adaptation under extreme conditions. Every movement, conversation, and decision carries weight, as the environment amplifies both external dangers and internal psychological pressures. Routines, schedules, and structured interactions are not merely administrative tools. They are lifelines, mechanisms for survival in a facility designed to contain the most dangerous individuals in Canada. Life inside these walls is a delicate equilibrium of control, observation, and human resilience, shaping not only the present experience but also the long-term mental and emotional landscape of those who endure it. Working as a correctional officer at the Atlantic Institution is not simply a job. It is a constant high-stakes battle with both human behavior and psychological stress. Staff members face unique challenges that go far beyond the physical demands of their work, requiring vigilance, discipline, and emotional resilience every single day. In a maximum security environment, the stakes are extraordinarily high. Any lapse in attention or judgment can have serious, even deadly consequences. Correctional officers are tasked with maintaining order and safety among individuals who have often committed violent crimes, while simultaneously protecting their own well-being and that of their colleagues. One of the most significant challenges for prison staff is managing the unpredictable behavior of inmates. Many individuals housed at Atlantic Institution have histories of extreme violence, gang affiliations, and personal vendettas, creating a constant atmosphere of tension. Officers must remain alert to subtle cues, changes in body language, or small incidents that could escalate into major conflicts. Even experienced staff cannot predict every confrontation, and this uncertainty adds to the psychological burden of the role. Maintaining composure under pressure is critical, as reacting impulsively or emotionally could provoke violence or compromise safety. The emotional and mental strain of working in such a high-security environment is immense. Correctional officers are constantly exposed to situations involving aggression, threats, and, in some cases, murder or suicide. Witnessing or responding to traumatic events such as inmate attacks or self-harm can lead to secondary trauma, anxiety, and burnout. Staff must find ways to manage these experiences while continuing to perform their duties with vigilance and professionalism. Peer support, mental health counseling, and resilience training are critical, but the emotional toll remains a persistent challenge for those who dedicate their careers to this demanding environment. Maintaining authority while exercising restraint is another delicate balancing act for prison staff. Inmates may test boundaries, challenge rules, or provoke confrontations in an attempt to assert dominance. Officers must enforce regulations consistently, yet avoid excessive force or actions that could escalate violence. Striking this balance requires not only physical strength but also keen psychological insight, patience, and effective communication skills. Each interaction is an opportunity to prevent conflict, but it also carries the potential for misinterpretation or unexpected escalation. Logistical challenges compound the difficulty of the role. Staff must oversee daily routines, including meals, recreation, medical visits, and educational or work programs, all while ensuring safety protocols are strictly followed. High-risk inmates may require specialized supervision, including single-cell housing, restricted movement, or constant observation. Coordinating schedules, monitoring activity, and responding to emergencies requires precise planning and rapid decision-making. Mistakes, even minor ones, can have serious repercussions, making attention to detail and situational awareness essential. Physical danger is ever present, even with stringent security measures in place. Officers are trained to respond to assaults, improvised weapons, and other emergencies, but the potential for injury is a constant reality. Managing violent inmates requires strength, strategy, and teamwork, and every incident tests the limits of an officer's training and composure. Moreover, staff must navigate complex interpersonal dynamics with inmates, balancing authority and control while maintaining professionalism in an environment where stress, fear, and aggression are pervasive. Beyond these immediate concerns, correctional staff also face the long-term psychological and social impacts of their work. High-stress environments can lead to insomnia, hypervigilance, anxiety, and difficulties maintaining personal relationships outside the prison. The knowledge that any day could involve life or death decisions creates an ongoing mental burden that requires ongoing coping strategies and support systems. Despite these pressures, many officers remain committed to their roles, driven by a sense of duty, professionalism, and the understanding that their work is essential to maintaining order and safety in one of the country's most challenging correctional facilities. Ultimately, the challenges faced by prison staff at Atlantic Institution are multifaceted, encompassing physical danger, psychological stress, logistical complexity, and emotional resilience. Officers must navigate a delicate balance between enforcement and empathy, control and observation, safety and human dignity. Their work is a constant negotiation with risk and unpredictability, highlighting both the difficulty and importance of managing a population of individuals who have demonstrated extreme violence, high-risk behaviors, and complex psychological needs. The daily reality for these staff members is a continuous test of skill, patience, and endurance, demanding unwavering focus and dedication in an environment where even a small lapse can have life-altering consequences. The Atlantic Institution, with its imposing walls, maximum security protocols, and history of violence, provides a stark lens through which we can examine the complexities of incarceration, human behavior, and the limits of control. While the facility is designed to contain some of Canada's most dangerous offenders, it also reveals profound lessons about the consequences of isolation, the fragility of mental health, and the unpredictable nature of human behavior under extreme conditions. Reflection on life within its walls forces us to consider not only the practical challenges of running a maximum security prison but also the broader ethical and social implications of confining individuals deemed high risk. One of the most striking lessons is the undeniable human cost of maximum security confinement. Inmates are removed from society and placed in an environment where every movement is controlled, every interaction scrutinized, and personal freedom severely restricted. While these measures are intended to prevent violence and maintain order, they also create psychological pressures that can exacerbate mental health challenges, increase stress, and in some cases, lead to despair or violent outbursts. The high incidence of suicides and the occasional occurrence of murders within the prison highlight how even the most secure environments cannot fully contain human behavior, whether directed outward toward others or inward toward oneself. The Atlantic Institution also demonstrates the critical importance of mental health support within correctional systems. Traditional security measures, fences, surveillance, isolation, can only address external threats. They cannot prevent the internal battles that inmates face daily. In a population often characterized by trauma, substance abuse, and violent histories, access to psychological counseling, therapy programs, and supportive interventions becomes essential. Observing the consequences of neglecting these needs offers a sobering lesson. True safety within a prison requires addressing both physical security and the mental well-being of those confined. Another key reflection is the role of staff in shaping the environment. Correctional officers at Atlantic Institution operate under extraordinary pressure, balancing enforcement, observation, and human empathy. Their decisions, behavior, and ability to de-escalate situations profoundly influence the prison's climate. Staff are constantly navigating a delicate equilibrium between control and compassion, and the facility's history shows how mismanagement, burnout, or lapses in attention can have serious consequences. The lessons here extend beyond prisons, illustrating how leadership, training, and vigilance are vital in any high-stakes environment where human behavior is unpredictable. Atlantic Institution also forces society to grapple with questions about punishment, rehabilitation, and justice. The facility is designed primarily for containment, not rehabilitation, yet inmates continue to exist as human beings with psychological needs, potential for growth, and complex personal histories. The tension between security and reform raises ethical questions. How do we balance public safety with humane treatment? Can extreme isolation and regimented control ever truly prepare inmates for eventual reintegration into society? The answers are neither simple nor absolute, but observing the reality inside Atlantic Institution provides critical insights into these ongoing societal debates. Moreover, the institution illustrates the profound impact of environment on behavior. When individuals are confined under extreme stress, surrounded by potential threats, and deprived of meaningful autonomy, behaviors, both positive and negative, are amplified. Some inmates may respond by seeking education, self-improvement, or structured routines, while others may resort to aggression, manipulation, or self-harm. Staff, too, are affected by the environment, navigating stress, fatigue, and emotional strain. The prison thus becomes a microcosm of human resilience, vulnerability, and adaptability, demonstrating how extreme circumstances can reveal the deepest aspects of human nature. The lessons from Atlantic Institution also extend to societal perspectives on crime and punishment. Observing the complexities of maximum security confinement challenges simplistic notions of good and bad inmates, or purely punitive versus rehabilitative approaches. It highlights the interconnectedness of mental health, past trauma, behavioral tendencies, and institutional design. The prison is not merely a container for criminals. It is a system where human lives, safety, and dignity intersect in high-stakes, often unpredictable ways. Understanding this complexity is essential for policymakers, social workers, and society at large when considering reforms, funding, and broader strategies for criminal justice. Finally, reflection on Atlantic Institution underscores the delicate balance between security and humanity. The facility teaches us that safety and control, while necessary, are not sufficient to address the full spectrum of challenges within maximum security prisons. Lessons drawn from its history, its inmates, and its staff emphasize that human behavior under extreme conditions is neither entirely predictable nor fully controllable. Recognizing this truth allows for a more nuanced understanding of incarceration, one that acknowledges the risks, the human cost, and the enduring need for compassion, vigilance, and systemic improvement. As the towering walls of the Atlantic Institution stand silently against the New Brunswick skyline, they serve as a reminder of both human resilience and human vulnerability. Within these walls, lives are confined, choices are scrutinized, and every day carries the weight of consequence. Murders and suicides, the relentless routines, and the constant tension reveal the extreme pressures of maximum security life. Pressures that test the limits of the mind, body, and spirit. Yet, amidst the fear and the tragedy, there are lessons to be learned. The Atlantic Institution shows us the profound importance of mental health, the necessity of vigilance, and the delicate balance between security and humanity. It forces society to confront uncomfortable truths about punishment, rehabilitation, and the human cost of confinement. And perhaps most importantly, it reminds us that behind every wall, every locked cell, and every surveillance camera, there are human lives, complex, fragile, and deserving of attention, even in the harshest circumstances. In understanding the Atlantic Institution, we do more than explore a maximum security prison. We explore the extremes of human behavior, the consequences of isolation, and the critical importance of compassion, even in the most controlled environments. It is a stark reflection of the fragility of life, the weight of responsibility, and the enduring challenge of managing both danger and humanity in one of Canada's most formidable institutions.